Hey Facebook friends, Amber Strong here in the social seat, warming things up for a brand new Faith Nation, which is coming your way in just mere minutes. On today's show, we're going to talk to White House Budget Director Mick Mulvaney. So make sure you're commenting below, telling us your thoughts, and I might read them live on the air. A brand new Faith Nation starts right now.
Well, is Obamacare going to be replaced after all? That is the big question. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. David, everybody's talking about health care.
It is back. Can I use the word resurrection?
I think so. On this show, yes.
On Faith Nation, we're going to use the word Obamacare, death, and resurrection. It all could happen. And that's this whole Graham Cassidy bill that everybody's hearing. Graham Cassidy sounds like it's not a candy bar. It's an actual bill. You knew I was going to use that line.
A Graham Cassidy bar, that does sound sort of
I'll take two Graham Cassidy bars, actually.
Interesting.
No, it's a big deal. This could really happen. Obamacare could indeed be replaced. Repealed, okay, not really, but replaced for sure. And that's what's on the docket right now. We got a lot on the docket for the show.
We do have a lot on the docket. To talk about health care and taxes, we have the White House Budget Director, Mick Mulvaney.
Is that right?
He is going to be live with us from the White House. Oh, there you go. And then President Trump bringing an American first mentality to the United Nations General Assembly. He gave a no-holds-barred speech yesterday.
Oh, I like the way you said that.
And then we're going to talk about the Emmys. Did you all see the Emmys? Just a couple of nights ago. How low can they go? With ratings and the Trump bashing, it was out of control.
Out of control to the point where I'll be honest with you, I felt a bit nauseous. Because look, here's the thing. Can we talk about the Emmys for a quick second? Because I know a lot of you folks are talking here about the Emmys. Look, I don't really want celebrities preaching to me about politics at award shows. And I'll be honest with you, I don't mean liberal celebrities. I mean liberal, conservative, libertarian. I don't care. I don't want them preaching to me. I just want to enjoy. I want to turn on the television and it's like, who won? Did my show win?
Right.
That's all I want.
I think you and so many people, me too.
Hello.
You just want to tune in and tune out of the political world, right?
I agree. Speaking about, let's not tune out. Why don't we tune in Amber C. Strong?
Oh, I like this idea.
Thank you very
much.
Joining us
in the social seat is Amber C. Strong.
Yes, let's tune into the social seat.
Hello.
Right?
Amber.
I'm here.
Yeah, that's why you're here.
I've joined the set this week.
Is that why you're here?
That is why I'm here.
It's great to have
That's solely what I come in here for. No, great to be had. So here's the thing. I am here today to read all of the wonderful comments and the feedback that you guys are sending us because you guys have given us some great comments, especially when it comes to the Emmys. So we're going to get into that in a little bit. But back to the budget. I think a lot of people are just kind of the budget, healthcare. There's confusion because here in D.C., the topic changes every, 5 seconds? Right? The news cycle changes every 5 seconds. So we reached out to you guys and we said, send us your topics, send us your thoughts, and we'll try to tackle them on the air. And we actually were able to get a good video. So we're going to take on a question from Rebecca in Texas.
Okay.
Hey Faith Nation, I'm Rebecca from Texas. With everything happening in the world, there's just a constant cycle of news. And in regards to what's coming out of Washington, for a long time, all I was hearing about was the healthcare reform. But now, the healthcare reform has backed off, I'm hearing more about taxes, but I really want to hear about both. Would you mind just giving me a status update on both? Thanks so much, love your show.
So we got answers for Rebecca, right? And not only do we have answers coming directly from the White House.
Oh, such a great transition from the social scene.
That was my not so smooth segue.
That's right. That's right. Amber C. Strong will be back with you later. All right, let's go to the White House now. The Budget Director, Mick Mulvaney, joining us here on Faith Nation. Director Mulvaney, thanks so much for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. That was a nice transition. I like that. That's very smooth.
Director, healthcare reform. There's the Graham Cassidy bill that is getting a lot of attention, a lot of talk. What do you think are the chances of it actually passing the Senate?
I honestly don't know. It sort of popped back up here in the last couple of days. I know that Senator Graham, my former colleague, I'm from South Carolina and served South Carolina in the House, so I've known Lindsey for many, many years. I know he was working on it quietly behind the scenes for much of August and now into early September, and now here it is back on the public stage. I think if you ask me how many votes it has as of today, 48, 49 maybe, which last time I checked is not enough. 50 is the threshold. But I know they're probably not going to vote on it till next week at the earliest. The Senate, as believe, just wrapped up today, or if not, be wrapping up here shortly in observance of the Jewish holidays that begin shortly. So they'll be back next week, and by then maybe we'll have a better idea as where we stand on health care.
So, Director Mulvaney, talk to us a little bit about this preliminary CBO, this Congressional Budget Office score that most likely will come out early next week, but it's not going to be a full CBO score. So there's a lot of concern about some folks that maybe have to, Democrats are making a big stink, as you might imagine.
Sure.
But even some Republicans might have to vote to a degree, not blindly on this, but they're going to still be some unanswered questions, even with that CBO score out there.
Yeah, keep in mind that the requirement of the CBO score is just a function of the 1974 Budget Act, when I know I just put half of your audience to sleep. But it's the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, which is the professional accountants and economists and so forth. But while their data is required, it's been wrong a lot in the past. In fact, I think this is the same organization that during a previous discussion about healthcare back in the spring said that if we got rid of the federal mandate, that people would actually choose to go off of Medicare, expanded Medicare. Think about that for a second, that you're getting something for free, and the CBO office assumes that if you're no longer required to buy something, you would give up what you're getting for free. It's absolutely absurd, and I think we've lost 12 million people under that calculation. So the CBO has its weaknesses, just like anybody else does who's trying to estimate the impact of a particular piece of legislation on 16, 18, 20% of the American economy. That's a long answer to your question. The CBO score we do expect out next week. We expect it will be sufficient to meet the statutory requirements to allow the Senate to vote, and that's really all the CBO score does, is just sort of check the box anyway.
And Director, on the topic of tax reform, do you think that there will be a bill on the president's desk, say, by the end of the year?
I hope so. That's still the president's top priority, though. Again, health care would be great. We've been pushing pushing taxes now for the last several weeks in an effort to try and jumpstart the economy, get the economy back to what we call this 3% sustained economic growth, what we call around here Maganomics. How do you get back to a permanently healthy American economy again? The story I tell is, if you've got listeners watching this show or viewers watching this show who are 30 years old, they've never had a job in a truly healthy American economy. That's defined as 3% or greater. So we want to try and get back to that, and tax reform is a central piece of that, which is why we've been working so hard on it. I understand that more details should be coming out by next week on taxes as well. So to your viewers' question about how we seem to go back and forth with taxes and healthcare, yeah, that's what we do. Good news is we can walk and chew gum at the same time, but there's a lot of things being handled in Washington at once.
You should think about doing stand-up comedy, Director Mulvaney. It's good. Let me ask you about what Politico says regarding tax cuts. Here's what they said this morning: removing some benefits for the rich and backing off of a proposed 15% corporate tax rate would help Republicans in two ways: by broadening the political appeal of tax reform and reducing its cost. So I guess the question is, where's the wiggle room here? Is that 15% corporate tax rate, I'm assuming it's not set in stone at all here?
Well, that is a centerpiece of nothing's set in stone in Washington, but if you ask the president what his priorities are on the tax reform bill specifically, that 15% rate is absolutely critical to us. Why? Because if we want to go back to that 3% economic growth, you have to have more investment in the country. The way you drive GDP growth is a function of the number of people working multiplied by how productive they are. And when you have an aging population, a shrinking job base, those folks who are working need to be more productive. The key to your and my personal productivity is oftentimes the capital investment we make. How much technology do we make available to our workers? How much training do we make available to them to try and get their output up, their production up? Driving that 15% corporate rate is a critical part of that. Not only will it bring back American companies from overseas, we'll get foreign companies to invest in America for the first time and make those capital investments we need to try and make people more productive. That's how you get back to a sustained, healthy American economy. So that 15% really is sort of a centerpiece of what the president's been pushing.
And when it comes to the wall, clear up the situation for our viewers at home. Will there be funding to pay for this wall in the new budget? And if so, Director, what will this wall look like?
The second question first, what will it look like? It will look like different things in different areas. We're going through a process right now, sort of a competition between, I think it's either 4 or 8 different sort of examples of the wall to see what might be the most effective in what places, what parts of the country. Keep in mind there's some places where this steel fence, the 18-high steel fence, is actually the preferred type of wall, even though technically it's called a fence. The Border Patrol is actually very concerned in some places about not being able to see through to the other side. So if you built a huge concrete wall and could not see to the other side, it actually makes enforcement more difficult. So the answer to your question is it will look like different things in different areas. As to what it would cost, we've asked for $1.6 billion this year. You can't build all of this thing at one time, so we've tried to be fiscally responsible and spread the payments out over when we actually would need the money. And that $1.6 billion has been approved by the House. It's the process of being approved by the Senate, at least in the preliminary bills they've been working on. So we're working very closely with the House and the Senate to try and fund the President's priority. This absolutely is a priority of the President. I know we've talked over the past couple of weeks about other things that are happening in immigration, but I want to make it very clear that the wall absolutely continues to be a priority for the President as well.
All right, well, Director Mulvaney, let me ask you a little bit about conservatives and their reaction to the whole Chuck and Nancy show, if you will. Sounds like a soap opera, or maybe it should be on primetime. Chuck and Nancy, what's the sense? How concerned should conservatives be about what we're hearing so much about, this new bipartisan Chuck and Nancy wheeling and dealing?
I actually had a front row seat to that event. I was sitting right next to Mrs. Pelosi during the dinner. Fascinating, fascinating times. Tell stories about that one to my grandchildren sometime. But the answer to your question is not concerned at all. I think what you've seen now is the President more interested in getting results. I think he's looking at Washington through the prism of how do I actually get some things done. Massive border security beyond a wall is part of what he's been pushing for since he was on the campaign. He wants more folks working on the border. He wants more folks working on customs enforcement in the interior of the country. He wants more technology down there. He wants more drones and more cameras. We need more roads to get to the wall that's there. We need bridges for those roads to go across. All of those things are part of the President's priorities, part of his agenda. And if he sees an opportunity to get those types of things by working with the Democrats, he'll do it. Look, he ran as a Republican, there's no question, and he won as a Republican, no question. But he's also interested in getting things done, and I think that's how he's looking at Washington now. He's looking around going, hey, who wants to work with me? And I do think, if we come back to health care for a second, his attitudes about that have been colored by the fact it's been so hard for the Republicans, especially in the Senate, to deliver on their campaign promises of getting rid of repealing and replacing Obamacare. And you can't blame them for being frustrated with that. I'm frustrated with that. I'm a Republican. I live in South Carolina. I have a senator, and I'm concerned that the Senate has been able to deliver. So the President just reflects, I think, what a lot of us are feeling about that. But when you are the President and you're interested in passing an agenda, maybe it's not that unusual for you to step back and say, okay, who can help me get this stuff done?
And Director, final question. Senators Cruz and Langford, they are trying to get funding for churches that are helping out with all of this storm recovery, FEMA funding. Yeah. How committed is the White House to making this happen?
Very much so. If there's a way for us to do it legally, we're going to do it. The faith groups are going to play a critical role in rebuilding Texas and rebuilding Florida, rebuilding Puerto Rico. We're just looking, again, come back to the same discussion I had about the President. He's looking for people who can help him get things done. And if churches and other religious groups can help us get that done, can help us help people, we'll look at every opportunity we can to do that.
Real quick, just to follow up on this, you say if there is a way to do so legally. Yeah. Can you expand on that just a little bit?
Again, I'm not familiar enough with the FEMA details and how the programs actually work on the ground, so I don't want to sit here and say we're going to do something and then get back to my office and say, well, actually, there's a law against that. So it should be assumed that every time I say we're going to do something, we follow the law because it's what we do in this administration, and that's the reason I just gave the limitation.
Wonderful. Director Mulvaney, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time here on Faith Nation. By the way, believe your ride is right behind you. That truck should take you right back.
These are your, this is your tax dollars at work. We got a lot of things going on here at the White House and in Washington, D.C. Sort of our little mini versions of infrastructure. They did rip out all of the thorn bushes that used to sit right here, which is really nice because I used to fall in them all the time after my interviews.
Always a way to tie it back into the budget. That's our Uber present to you.
This project will be under budget, I can assure you.
Director, thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
All right. Director Mitch, listen to me. I have Mitch McConnell on my head.
Mick, I know.
Mick Mulvaney.
He had a lot to say.
He had a lot to say, doing stand-up comedy from Pebble Beach there. That
Funny guy.
Tell you what, I want him on. I mean, that's some good stuff.
You weren't kidding. He could have if this whole gig doesn't work out, he could have a career in stand-up comedy.
What a transition from budget director to comedian.
There you go.
The Democrats may have a few things to say about that.
What are the things that struck you most?
A couple things. I wrote down a few things. First of all, he talked about the 15% corporate tax rate being the centerpiece. He said, look, we got to have it. Now, do I think it's going to be 15%? No. And that's what he has to say. But I thought that was interesting. Also, he talked about on that health care bill. Graham Cassidy, he says he actually had a 48, 49. I mean, he was actually going with numbers there. And we know that it's most likely at 49 and that Lisa Murkowski of Alaska is going to be that key 50th.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing, the CBO, I thought it was interesting, that whole Congressional Budget Office score. He's like, give me a break. The CBO's wrong half the time anyhow. So I was kind of expecting him to say that.
Yeah.
And also, I just thought when he said about Chuck and Nancy, how conservatives shouldn't be concerned.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Reassuring.
Yeah, reassuring. We'll see. I mean, I think that still has a few other, acts to play out in the Chuck and Nancy soap opera.
Yeah.
So
Great to talk to him. Tax reform, a big ticket item this fall, and so this is not the first we're going to be seeing of him or a lot of people that work in that sphere.
And that's right. And you asked him about with tax reform, will it get done by the end of the year? He says he hopes so. We'll see. I mean, they really want to get it done, I think, by Thanksgiving. I don't think that's happening. As a matter of fact, hold on. That's not happening. Okay? It's just not
Reality
happening.
check.
This just in. It's not happening.
Yeah.
But we'll see. So.
Well, we want to invite all of you. Please feel free to comment, weigh in. We love hearing from you. In the meantime, we got to talk about the president. He is in New York, and yesterday, did you see this? He gave a powerful, staunch, pro-American speech at the United Nations General Assembly. What did you think of that?
Yeah, no, I missed it. I was at lunch. No, I saw it. Rocket Man.
He called Kim Jong-un of North Korea Rocket Man.
Rocket Man. He did it. He went there.
He went there. Some very provocative language, not just that, but Islamic, what did he say?
Radical Islamic
terrorism, loser terrorists. He had some provocative language, no doubt.
It was like he was at a West Virginia campaign rally, but someone forgot to tell him that he was at the United Nations. But look, this is Trump.
Yeah.
And so, you know what? I can tell you right now what the base is saying, Jenna, more power to him.
Yeah.
And the Democrats, they need smelling salts to revive them from the floor because they passed out after that speech. But you know what? This is Trump.
Yeah. Well, I've seen some tweets. Robert Jeffress, Dallas pastor, who we had on our show just a couple of weeks ago, he was saying he was so impressed by this speech. A president who finally stands up for what he believes. Also, the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, saying this was, he thought, the best speech in the 30 years that he's had with the UN. So liberals are going to attack him, but a lot of his base, a lot of conservative leaders, very impressed.
Well, I figured he would think that's a pretty big, bold speech by the president for sure. Speaking of big and bold, the president has always talked about the UN and how it's he doesn't like it. He's not a big fan of the UN. He said that during the campaign trail. He actually said it to AIPAC, which is the big pro-Israel lobbying group.
He has a little bit of a rocky history.
Yeah, shall we go down memory lane?
Yeah, roll clip.
Let's do.
Which brings me to my next point. The utter weakness and incompetence of the United Nations. The United Nations is not a friend of democracy. It's not a friend to freedom. It's not a friend even to the United States of America, where, as you know, it has its home.
And joining us now, Amber again. Amber, what are people saying?
Yeah. So just backing up just a little bit. So we got a lot of love for Mick Mulvaney.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Good.
Just saying that he broke it down in a way that was easy for anyone to understand.
Yeah, I agree with that, actually.
But as far as the UN is concerned, we have this coming in from Trish Anderson, who says, truth is tough, but it sets us free, in terms of President Trump's speech to the UN. So
the truth will set you free.
yeah,
I've heard of that before.
She also went on to say he will always go there. He will set Iran straight too, or Iran straight too. So there you go.
Very interesting. Well, good for our viewers and our
Trish.
listener. Trish?
That was Trish. Yeah,
Yes.
and one other
Oh,
thing I would
please,
like,
feel free.
I want to weigh in on going back to Mulvaney.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw this, we asked you to send in your comments, we asked you to send in your questions. Rebecca did that, and Mulvaney addressed her question directly on the air.
Oh, that's true.
So there you go. So bring them in. We'll get them
Keep
to
them
the
coming.
people in charge.
Keep them coming.
That's a good point.
Right, thanks, Amber.
All right, who else do we have at the White House, don't we?
I believe we have Ben Kennedy. Is that who we're going to now?
Yeah, we'll go to Ben, but first, I guess we want to do one last thing on the UN. Can we put this up real quick on the screen? Because I thought this was interesting, this America First. I guess that is, there it is.
President Trump
Look at that.
tweeting, once again,
Yep.
as President of the United States of America, I will always put hashtag America First.
And it was an America First speech at the UN that doesn't necessarily comport with a lot of folks.
Right.
You know, you're supposed to do the whole, let's all hold hands, let's, love each country and let's love one another. And honestly, in a way, he was saying that, but not in the way traditional politicians say
Right.
it. He was like, you're a rocket man, we're going to blow up North Korea, and oh, by the way, let's get along.
Oh, and by the way,
yeah.
I know. I saw Hillary Clinton. She was making the media rounds. She has this new book out.
Oh, she
but they
does?
asked her,
I didn't know that.
you haven't
Really?
heard about it?
No, what
Have you guys
happened
heard about
that?
it?
I didn't hear it. No, it's just good.
But she was talking about his speech. They were asking her about it.
Yeah.
And she said, he should have led with more diplomacy.
Yeah, but see, this is why Hillary didn't get elected, because she wants to lead with diplomacy, but that's code for calm down, let's be a politician, let's take it easy. And I'm not saying there's not a school of thought there. There is, but it's too close to the vest.
Yeah.
Trump just lets it all hang out, and that's why people love him. Because they're tired of politicians giving them the same diplomatic answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
They want real. They want Rocket Man is what they want.
They want Rocket Man. Well, I think we have a clip of President Trump speaking at the UN. Can we go ahead and roll that now?
Well, we'll maybe do that later.
Or not. Okay, that's coming up.
But we have a clip of
Bear with
Ben, and
us.
he's live. What do you think of that?
Ben is live at the White House.
Nothing like Ben Kennedy live at the White House.
Nothing better.
I mean, maybe Mick Mulvaney first, but Ben, you're up next. What do you got over there?
Well, good afternoon, David and Jenna. First, I appreciate the compliments, and it's right back at you guys. Let's backtrack a bit and talk about Trump's speech, which was really textbook Trump. He took aim at America's enemies, in this case, North Korea. He was confident, no nonsense, and very direct, saying the U.S. will defend itself and its allies if North Korea does happen to strike. And if that's the case, as you just heard Trump say, he promised total destruction to the rogue regime. So what do you think? Please comment in the space below. In the meantime, I got the chance to talk to some folks just outside the White House beyond all this construction here behind me to get their take. Take a listen. Do you think sanctions are working against the rogue regime?
Not yet.
North Korea, his work is no good because nuclear is bad.
The United States has great strength and patience. But if it is forced to defend itself or its allies, we will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea.
I think it's a big problem. I was in the Army, and I think it's not it is not a game.
He claims to be pro-life. Trump? Well, this is the answer.
What's the solution?
Nuclear non-proliferations. Nobody has it, nobody can use it.
Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime.
Yeah, the Rocket Man. Again, they're like both being very immature.
That the whole Kim dynasty has been maniacs.
Is Kim Jong-un a rocket man?
And Elton John's a rocket man.
So the big question everyone wanted to know, who I spoke to just outside the White House, is what is next? Well, today President Trump is meeting with the Prime Minister of Japan as well as the President of South Korea to have a trilateral meeting talking about the threat of North Korea. David and Jenna, we will keep you posted about what is discussed.
Yeah, Ben, I know North Korea had a front row seat at this UN speech when President Trump was speaking. Any reaction from that rogue regime?
Well, Jenna, to be honest, North Korea's ambassador flat out boycotted Trump's speech. He was seen walking out moments before the president took the stage. And at this point, it has really been radio silence from North Korea. We have not had any kind of a comment or reaction from them about what was said at the United Nations.
All right, Ben Kennedy from the North Lawn of the White House. That sounds so official. Thank you, Ben. And by the way, Mick Mulvaney not taking us up on the car option behind you, so feel free. I believe that truck behind you can take you right back here to the Bureau. So.
Oh, really? I wasn't aware of that. I will. I'll tell Dennis, and we'll pack up and hitch a ride back to the Bureau.
Yeah, just keep the receipt.
Okay, sounds good.
Ben.
Oh boy. So hey, look, from North Korea to the Emmys.
To the Emmys.
That's a transition.
There you go. How low can they go? How low can they go?
What's your take on that? Because I don't know. To me, it just seemed way over the top.
Way over the top. You know, we talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the show, and be curious to know what all of you think. Did you watch the Emmys, for one? And two, what did you think, if you did? If you didn't, why didn't you watch? You know, the ratings were, the numbers are still coming in, but all-time low viewership.
For sure.
What it looks like.
Definitely.
And then also just bashing President Trump, one celebrity after the next, it seemed. And it had a very political tone. I think politics took center stage.
Well, for sure. And speaking of politics, Sean Spicer, Spicy, was back, and Stephen Colbert brought him out on stage. And boy, we need to talk about this after the clip. Is this where you say roll clip? I like when you say that.
Roll clip.
Of course, what really matters to Donald Trump is ratings. You got to have the big numbers. And I certainly hope we achieve that tonight. Unfortunately, at this point, we have no way of knowing how big our audience is. I mean, is there anyone who could say how big the audience is? Sean, do you know?
This will be the largest audience to witness an Emmys, period, both in person and around the world.
No, there was Melissa McCarthy who played Sean Spicer in her SNL skits.
I'm not even looking at you.
You know, I think it says something when you see Alec Baldwin, who plays Donald Trump on SNL. He won an Emmy for his performance last night.
Yeah, shocking.
Yeah, and then, Amber, did you see this? He mocked the president by saying, "Hey, this is the president's. You know, he couldn't win an Emmy when he was the host of The Apprentice." So. Here you go. The president finally has an Emmy.
You got to weigh in on this.
I haven't said a word. I haven't said a word. I am here to be the voice of the people.
Oh, that's so patriotic.
Thank you. And the people have spoken. So we put out kind of some feelers a couple of days ago and said, "Did you watch the Emmys? What are your thoughts?" We got this one in from Peggy. Peggy said, "I used to enjoy them until it became a platform for progressive politics. I do admire Spicer for building bridges," which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
Because we kind of talked about this a little bit before. That's a great take on it. I hadn't seen that take before because I've actually seen the other side, conversely, where a lot of conservatives were kind of bashing Spicer and saying he wasn't quite there to support the president. So
yeah, I understand why Spicer did it. I was a little uncomfortable with this idea that he was kind of buddy-buddy a little bit with Colbert and some of these liberals that were in on the joke. I don't know. It just seemed to me to be like, I wasn't quite sure what his motive there was. I mean...
And I'm not sure it's a win on either side, because then you have people on the left, you have liberals saying, why did they bring him on in the first place? Like, why are you who were angry as well? So I'm not sure what audience that played to.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Did you all see Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda and Dolly Parton? Yeah, all three of them. Yeah. Yeah, it was really awkward.
Yeah. Tell our audience.
Well, yeah, so Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda just come out and totally trash Trump, but there's Dolly Parton in the middle, who is a conservative and relatively pretty much a Trump supporter, who was just kind of looking awkward and had to take a little bit of a step back and was like, I can't believe they just went there, and they did. And so the whole thing was just awkward. I mean, here's my take. As I said before, to a degree, I don't want liberal politicians preaching to me about my politics, and I don't want conservative politicians preaching to me about my politics, whatever my politics are. I just want to watch television.
Yeah. And that actually leads us into our next viewer comment. This one's from Amy Evans, who said, "I used to enjoy the award shows. However, once they became a platform for political opinions, I stopped watching them, and this predates the current administration."
does.
So it's not even, like you said, I don't want to hear it from one side or the other. She's saying, I stopped wanting to hear it a long time ago.
Leave politics out of it, right? A lot of people.
A lot of people weighing in.
Yeah, I think so. And then Ben Kennedy, who did our promotion this week for Faith Nation. I mean, we got what Shoshana was about 35,000, right? 35,000 or so people that that watched that promo because it was about the Emmys, and people were engaging because I just feel like it's a flashpoint for a lot of folks. You know, it just gets people stirred up.
Yeah.
So anyhow.
All right, Brody. That brings us to the Brody File takeaway. Take it away.
Well, thank you. And thank you for saying take it away, because it is the Brody File
takeaway.
Takeaway. And we're on camera 6 this week, so it's I'm a little nervous that we're on camera 6, but that's okay. Don't laugh at me. Okay. Look, this whole thing about wiretapping, Trump Tower, remember back in March, Donald Trump came out with that provocative, controversial tweet, Obama's wiretapping Trump Tower, what's going on, this is horrible, terrible. Well, guess what? We know now that indeed Paul Manafort was being wiretapped. That's right. And oh, by the way, Paul Manafort has an apartment in Trump Tower. And oh, by the way, another ... That FISA request, the wiretapping was going on while Donald Trump was president-elect, and it was going on after he was president of the United States. So what's the Brody File takeaway? Here it is, plain and simple. Where is the mainstream media in all of this? You know, they were so big on talking about Donald Trump and how, what a crazy thing to say. Well, now, look at this. Is it true? I'm not going to say it's 100% true, but boy, it sure seems like there's more truth to that tweet than a lot of people thought, especially in the mainstream media back in the day. And here we are. So, you know what, Donald Trump, don't count this guy out. He seems to, I don't know what it is, but he is, he's a piece of work. He's a piece of work, but you know, I think it points to his instinct. He has a lot of instinct, doesn't he? It does, and also, let's also be honest. A lot of people think he's, you know, he's this like big goofball and he doesn't know what he's doing. Look, he was president-elect at the time. You're going to tell me you're going to put out a tweet like that if you didn't have some information, reliable information that someone was giving you, that Manafort may indeed have been wiretapped. Yeah. I think he's 3 steps ahead of everybody. I think he's playing chess when everybody else is playing checkers. I really believe that. And I know it doesn't look, it looks, you know, Rocket Man at the UN, people think he's crazy. I don't think that at all. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. It's more strategic than a lot of people think. And yes, does he have a off-the-cuff kind of, I'm doing another Brody File takeaway. By the way, should I go to 6? No,
it's
that's
okay.
Right.
We like.
He's just, the point is that he is really, he's off the cuff and he's rogue, but don't think he's not strategic as well. So there you go, Jenna. There you go. Oh, I've worked up
I like that analogy, checkers and chess.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I'm going to take a sip of water.
All right, well, that really does it for us. Amber, anything else?
Yeah, keep weighing in. We've got a lot of great responses throughout this show. One of my favorite ones was, I love this show. I think that person deserves a mug. I think we need to get a mug to her as soon as possible.
Yeah, we have the best viewers, I have to say. You all out there are just great.
Oh, they're
Keep weighing in.
fantastic.
We love hearing from you.
Yeah, and I like when they called us classy people.
Yeah, classy's good.
That was nice.
You know what it is.
Say
You know
it.
what it is. It's David's pocket square.
What camera are we on? Are we on? We're on 4.
That
Okay,
must
there's.
be
Oh well, we can't really quite get a close up of that. But look.
I mean,
look. I understand it's Facebook. We don't have much time. We got to keep it moving. But if you want to monitor the social media comments on this, because what do you? Thank you. Does the pocket square work, and does it class me up? And honestly, does it class both of us up? I kind of feel like I carry the show with this.
Oh, you carry the show with it. By all means.
I mean, you're okay. I mean, you're fine. But
Jenna's here.
Then this comes along.
I mean, game changer.
Game changer.
Showstopper.
A showstopper.
You know, no comments, but lots of laughing emojis. You interpret that how you will.
Right. It's not the first time I've been laughed at, by the way. But thank you. So we like the pocket square. Is that correct?
I think it's here to stay. Let us know. Weigh in.
You can, if you'd like to wear it one week.
See, I don't know where to put it.
No,
I mean, Amber and I.
I'm not sure she's ready to start that trend.
Yeah, I mean, Amber, maybe next week we wear coats. And we can,
how about that?
Okay, we'll wear
do
coats
that
next
together.
week and have our pocket
Fair
square.
enough. Business
All right.
suit, like Hillary.
Business suit,
Just
like
wear
a pantsuit.
A pantsuit.
A pantsuit.
You went there.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us.
the rap
and
music.
as always, we will be right back here at next Wednesday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We will see you then.
Did you really say pantsuit?
I went there.